Hello everyone, this is Joshua Phillips for the Ohio Valley Chess Club. Today's video, I'm just going to walk through a 15-minute plus 15-second per move game I played earlier on lichess.org. So I already played this. I ran the computer analysis feature on Lichess, and I'm just going to go back through the game, talk about what the computer says, and hopefully learn something from the experience. Spoiler alert, I have the white pieces. This worked out pretty well for me. So, first couple moves, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know I try to play the London system. The game starts d4, d5. I play bishop to f4. Black plays bishop to f5. I just play e3. I think this is all very normal. This is just playing the London. We now have knight to f6. Now the first sort of contentious idea, I move this bishop up. The engine doesn't say anything mean about this. It does recommend that black takes, but it doesn't think this e6 move is too bad. I chose to capture to split these pawns. The one thing I really missed that I haven't thought about is when you get this opportunity to split the black pawns here, well, the knight is coming to e4, which is going to, when you take the knight, it's going to unpin the pawns. So I think I was trying to be clever there, and it didn't really work. I then played d2. We have knight to c6. c3, just getting the London structure. Black now plays the bishop into e4. And so far, all of these moves, the engine just says nothing shocking is going on. So knight takes, bishop takes. The engine's still saying plus 0.4. I will say, let's see. So I take... When black recaptures here, the engine jumps, on Lichess jumps to plus 0.4. It's recommending f-pawn takes, which gives an evaluation of still plus 0.1, which is very, very close to 0. So, okay. I played this h4 move, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to do something dangerous down the king side of the board. I didn't really see a good development move. The engine was recommending to get the queen out instead of this pawn push. Which makes sense, so the queen can attack this pawn, put pressure on this pawn, and naturally you're going to want to get your queen out of the way eventually. Black plays the bishop up. Valuation has crept up to plus 0.6. I make an additional pawn push. The thing I was visualizing here, the engine's recommending I move the knight, which I think is just a matter of development. But I'm thinking if I push the pawn, I'm creating pressure. There's no danger of black moving the bishop in because I can just kick it out. There's no real attack on my king I can see. So, okay. So I push this pawn. Black played bishop to h4. And here, the engine is recommending... So the engine is recommending that black should have just played queen up. Preparing to castle. So black played the bishop. The engine recommendation here is queen b3. Somewhat anticlimactically telling black to just undo that bad plan. And then I take the pawn, and the engine is saying my queen is safe here. So that's tricky. I believe part of why I missed that, and I missed it again, I believe, in the next move. So I played pawn push to kick the bishop. Black pushes the bishop back. Finally get the knight out. Bishop takes, knight takes. Engine's fine with these moves. To me, it's just, my knight is now on a pretty decent square. Black's going to have to castle to the queen side if he wants to make these kinds of pawn pushes to kick my knight out. This knight can't really get to my knight. Black plays the queen up. And now I finally make this queen move developing. And what I did notice is that the queen threatens this b7 pawn. And it's developing, so that's good. What I miss is, you know, black castles here. I miss that there is a threat against the f-pawn. And the f-pawn, you know, there are two f-pawns, so when I take this pawn, it doesn't open a file. I should have just seen this capture. I castled queenside. The engine still favors me, but I did miss, because it didn't occur to me during the game to try this move. I didn't see it, so that's not a good sign. Black makes this knight move. Now, what I did identify with the knight move is the tactic that was played here. Bishop up, the queen is now threatening the knight and threatening this pawn with check. And there's no way for black to save all of the problems here. Let's just... So black plays the knight back. I take with the queen as is recommended. It's now saying clear up to +3 for white, which is kind of surprising. I think I'm up 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm currently up 1 pawn. I'm currently up 1 pawn. There are 2 pawns in immediate danger. And my structure definitely looks a lot better. The engine is really liking my position here. Black moves the king away. I took the central pawn thinking that it wrecks the structure, maybe taking the... So yeah, that was my thinking. Okay. This knight move was made by black, which I didn't understand. I'm trying to force a queen trade because I feel like I'm ahead enough on board. I'm up 2 full pawns. They're center pawns. I have a good pawn structure, so if we trade queens off... So I'm thinking, you know, if black accepts this trade, I'm going to try and force the rooks off the board, and I'm going to try and play an endgame where I'm up 2 pawns. So black makes this pawn push. And, oh, yeah, so the secondary thing, so I made this move, I'm thinking, okay, queen trade, and I'm thinking black is compelled to trade queens because the other black moves are like queen here, or either queen to b6 or queen to a6 to cover the knight and get the queen out of the way. Those both look pretty awkward to me. But instead, black made this pawn push, which just hangs the knight. So now I'm up 2 pawns and a piece. Makes this pawn push. I trade pawns because now I'm definitely up enough material that I am not scared of simplifying the board. So some trades happen. Has made a full +8 in this situation. So this would seem to be the worst move I played in the game, just from the engine's point of view. I'm sorry, so let's see. I played queen to a3. I think I'm trying to force the queen trade here, and it doesn't really make sense because black doesn't want to cooperate. What the engine is recommending is that I play queen to f5. I'm assuming putting pressure on this pawn, maybe helping the knight get around. Let's see. So then the engine is actually recommending that black trade the queens off. So the engine must just feel that there's so much attacking pressure here. I think it's giving awkward advice because of how good the attacking pressure is. Because obviously, this is the line the engine recommends, just playing all the moves in. But that doesn't even seem like it's an effort to stay in the game. So I make this queen move. Queen moves out of the way. I make a rook move. So this rook move, 1, I have to get the rook out of the way. 2, I want the rook to protect this f-pawn eventually. The engine's recommending I move the rook up to h2. I move the rook over to d1. I'm thinking the rook's going here at some point. My king will hide on c2. Queen move. This is to threaten the rook and jam his rook back into the corner. It succeeds. I protect my pawn. Black has a check. Let's see, did I make some bad moves here? Yes, okay. So here it's recommending that I just save the pawn. So what I did is I played queen to e4. And it's recommending I save the pawn. And then simply win this pawn. There's no real square for... Okay, so I did miss... This was a mistake. It did not cost me the game. This was a pretty silly mistake. I could have just pushed the pawn for safety. Okay. Now, one thing that's important here, I believe there can be a pretty serious blunder, which is... Not quite yet. So here I almost played a really, really bad move I almost played king to d3, and I was able to find that after this queen move, that this looks very uncomfortable. I don't like that situation. So I did manage to find that simply king d1. Now my king is hiding a little bit more effectively. That's what I wanted. I throw a check in here. Let's see. In this position, played king to e7, or knight to e7, sorry, checking. The engine's saying this is better. Okay. So there's a bit of a whirlwind idea. So let's see. What happens... I believe the engine's finding some kind of additional material attack after all of this. So... okay, there are ways to win the rook. Okay. So we play some weird checkmate stuff. I'm just being careful not to get trapped or stuck in a perpetual. So we play a few moves. My opponent declines to trade queens, which, unfortunately for my opponent, leads to a neat tactic here, which is queen goes to a6. The king can only run to the b8 square. I then have the knight check, corner, and okay, I played this move because I thought it was a more stylish checkmate, because the queen is the only checking piece and the king is somewhat smothered. But, okay.